Interview that we had with Mr. Sandile Zungu from the Black Business Council. Then he does join us via video link. Mr. Zungu, apologies then, the line just did not agree with us a little bit earlier on. But if we continue with that interview, just the essence I was trying to bring forward was that indeed we do have these plans, as you noted, and we are indeed lucky enough to have them. And it also does give us a measure a way to measure any failures we may have received or had thus far. And one can prudently say that we failed on many accounts with regards to the implementation of these plans. Why have we failed so much, though?
Thank you, Arabile. My apologies for the poor connection as well. The truth is, it's a well-accepted truth that as South Africa, not only at the level of the state, but at the level of business as well, we've been very tardy at implementation. And when we talk about a capable state, that's where incapability tends to manifest itself in the poverty of implementation. That's when it shows that we don't have the skills, the depth of skills, at the level of government departments, at the level of SOEs who are at the center of implementation of some of these plans, as well as things that debilitate us, which is corruption, unfortunately. And these are kind of things that we have to address as a matter of priority. So when we talk about focusing on infrastructure that is shovel-ready and that involves both the private sector participation as well as that of the state, it is because we want to see a much greater convergence between the skills in the private sector as well as that in the state. And also bearing in mind that our fiscus is under deep and severe strain. In short, it has got no money. And therefore, to mobilize capital, you need to have the confidence of the investor sector, which is a private sector, being enhanced.
Yeah.
And basically, its participation in the rollout and implementation must be not only heard, but it must be visible. And we believe that if we do that, partly we will resolve some of the inherent problems which are failures to implement correctly.
Yeah, there must be short-term things as well that we can do surely at this point, Mr. Zungu. What are the short-term wins or the things that we can sort of kick out the way immediately? I mean, one thing that comes to me is perhaps the spectrum issue, how we keep delaying that. Surely that would help.
Unfortunately, the spectrum is becoming a curse. It's becoming our, call it a black gold problem in South Africa. We need to free the spectrum either through auctioneering or through the creation of a wholesale open access network. It's just not happening. My suspicion is that the lobbies who are protecting the interests of those who are already in the game are far too strong against weak bureaucrats who just hate six laugh. And the biggest loser is a consumer who wants competition and who wants affordable spectrum. But it must be done. It must be done. We have to push hard to ensure that even within the 1-year extension that has been given, that it must happen. We need the spectrum because if we do not have the spectrum, we may as well kiss goodbye to this fourth industrial revolution. We'll hear about it. It happens in the north, but it's not happening here. Young people who want to be players in the economy, they want spectrum because they've got great ideas that they want to entertain. But the spectrum must be affordable. The Internet of Things, machine learning, which are all wonderful concepts that are driving economic growth in the north, must happen in this country. And these are the low-hanging fruits. All that needs to happen, auction the spectrum and create the wholesale open access network, which will obviously facilitate new entrants into the space. Another issue as well, Arabile, is labor-intensive sectors need to be supported, such as tourism. And it's a low-hanging fruit because it's going to absorb a lot of labor. Infrastructure as well, the network industries, whether it's rail or water or sewage, electrification, They need to be speeded up because all of those things will boost the consumer confidence, they will boost the investor confidence, and that will create a strong backdrop for economic growth.
Yeah. Do you feel that government is perhaps shutting business out, or have they finally embraced business a little bit more? And I ask that in relation to the SOEs. Surely, now more than ever, the realization that public-private partnerships are going to be the aiding force of many of the SOEs we have should have hit home. Do you think it has?
Well, let's not preempt what the president has in store for us, because I suspect that some of those key issues will be inherent in his determination. And that said, talking from a black business, I can tell you that our history is that government views private sector with a lot of suspicion. And we've spent and probably wasted a lot of time because of that trust deficit between government on one hand and private sector on the other hand. We are in one boat that is slowly drifting to the bottoms. Unless we operate as one cohesive unit and stop distrusting each other, this country will not realize its full potential. So we do hope that this COVID-19 presents us with a crisis that we have not allowed to go to waste. We need to see greater collaboration and cooperation between the social partners, including labor, by the way.
You're quite right. Including labor needs to form part of this conversation. They certainly aren't at this point in time necessarily when it comes to the likes of COSATU, who aren't part of the meeting necessarily for now. But with labor meant to be a part of that discussion, it's going to be quite critical. As you made note of, the other economic spheres are trying to play their part. The South African Reserve Bank, for one, decreasing interest rates by 3 percentage points or 300 basis points so far this year. Maybe, who knows, another quarter percentage point may be taken away as well, even later this week. Is there anything else you think that the other spheres of government, particularly the economic spheres, could be doing at this point?
Well, the reduction in interest rates is one way of boosting the consumer confidence. But when there is no money, the consumer is like a shopper who just sees for sale signs, but has got no money to buy. He wishes that he had money. So we're probably in that state. We need to get more people in the employ. We need to ensure that we break the back of monopolies and oligopolies who are quite honestly stifling the space for new entrants for the SMME sector. We need to encourage them to absorb more SMMEs into their supply chains because quite honestly, in the long term, growth will come from SMMEs as well as sustainable employment creation will come from the SMMEs. So it's quite important that these barriers, these impediments must be dealt with.
Yeah. The president of the Black Business Council, Mr. Sandile Zungu, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. Let's chat after the president as well releases that economic plan, and hopefully we'll come to loggerheads again, perhaps, on what exactly has come to the fore. Thank you so much for the time there, the president of the Black Business Council.